It's a friend. It's part of the family. It's that one joke that you never can remember. It's your first kiss. It's our culture. OneGrape. It's one of us.
And you're back on air with Geniene Preston. And it's Rock Your Morning, and we're having such fun this morning in the studio because I'm just watching those glasses of red wine standing in a line because OneGrape is with us on air. OneGrape is with us on air. So, yeah, all good. Happy to have everyone back. We've been web streaming, so if any of you are on Facebook, watch us on Facebook Live. You can catch us in the studio. And I've got I've got Ken walking in and out of the studio with waving hands. But next to me, I have Annelize, and Annelize is going to be chatting to us a little bit about the OneGrape journey. I think Ken will tell us his journey as an entrepreneur, and you can tell us a little bit about the wine, because it definitely is 4 o'clock somewhere in the world.
No, absolutely. Like we say, it's 1 o'clock, and we're very proud of our brand. We started off as a very small company about three odd years ago. And we started with our basic lines called the OneGrape wine. The varietals we've got in that range is a Sauvignon Blanc, it's a Merlot, it's a dry red blend, a sweet rosé, and a dry rosé.
And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to ask you, in terms of all of those wines, did you bring them in the studio today?
Yes, we did. Not that we're going to taste all of them, but if you're happy to do so, we can definitely arrange that.
So carry on. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, so that's the varietals we started off with. And then obviously we expanded on our brand. We also launched a product called the Leopard's Tail, which you'll see the branding. Obviously, it's got a leopard on. And the 3 varietals we've got there is the Shiraz Mavadre, a coffee pinotage, which is doing very, very well, and also our Sauvignon Blanc.
And the Sauvignon Blanc as well.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So you have 2 ranges. What are the differences between the OneGrape range and the Leopard's Tail range? So
our OneGrape range is your volume-based range. It's an easy drinking wine. This wine gets served in a lot of the restaurants. It's also got a screw cap, so it's easier to manage in a restaurant setup. So that's our entry-level wine. And then obviously our Leopard-style wines, that's a more exclusive. So that's our export brand.
And it's got such a nice label. See, the label's awesome. See the label? It's so cool. Why animals?
Well, it's proudly South African. We're a proudly South African wine. And what better way of displaying one of our big 5 on the bottles? That's
Has each of the bottles got a different one of the big 5?
No. So it's only the leopard style is only about the leopard.
So it's just, and do you have a folk tale that follows the leopard's tail? In other words, I know you have a brand ambassador. So is Ken going to tell us a little bit about the tale behind the leopard?
Maybe we should leave that for Ken to do.
That's what I said. Is he going to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we've got a brand ambassador, Lutuli Dlamini, who's done a lot of our ads, and we're very proud to be associated with him. It was very exciting to do these ads, which will obviously expand more on the brand, on social media and so forth. But yeah, it was a very exciting time to do that.
Ken was saying that you are going to be going online and you'll have your own e-commerce store soon. How far is that in terms of your ability to be able to buy online?
So we've started with the process. What we needed to do is obviously start with loading the product, so creating basically your white banner, and then also loading all the products. You'll also see that we're not just going to have our wines on the store, but also your basic brandies and whiskies, because it's nice that a lady might want to purchase wine and her husband doesn't drink wine, and at the same time he'll be able to purchase brandy or whiskey. So it's basically going to become a one-stop shop.
I love an online bottle store.
I know, and it's all about, for us, it's all about convenience.
And it certainly is convenient if you can, especially if you're having a party.
Yes.
If I know I'm having a party tomorrow and I look at my liquor cabinet and it looks sadly lacking, I can actually just go online and order from you.
Yeah, but you know people, so we need to do something about that empty cabinet.
Definitely. So tell me a little bit more about, is it in the bottle stores? Do you find it in a lot of bottle stores, or are you just a hotel and restaurant brand?
No, so you can get our wines in a lot of the Liquor City bottle stores, as well as Spa and Tops. So that's two of the main retail outlets where you can find our wines in. And then obviously, a lot of the restaurants in the Edenville and even Benoni area, they stock our wines. But yes, with the online platform, we'll have more exposure, and obviously people even from the outskirt areas would be able to purchase it, and it will be delivered to their door.
Well, I can't wait to taste the wine. I think that we have to do. So we're going to go to listen to some music, and then it's news time. And after the news, we'll be back with Ken from OneGrape, and we'll talk to him a little bit more about the brand.
Of the big five in the African bush, have any of you ever seen a leopard? But if you see a leopard's tail first, well, unenhlanhla. In other words, you have good fortune. Well, tonight you're in luck. Here's your first leopard's tail. What's your tail?
You're back with Geniene Preston. This is Actonville FM. Of course, it's always rock your morning, and this morning we're particularly rocking our morning. We're fortunate enough to still have Kim and Andy in the studio with us, because normally she beetles on home after her slight, well, kind of. And today she's staying with me, and this is great because we're having some wine, because somewhere in the world it is wine o'clock. OneGrape Wines have brought us some wine. Cypress Foods have brought us some cheese. So we're cheesing and wining. We have our entertainment lined up with Betty Bangles, our very, what should we call him? Our in-room, our in-studio entertainer. And then we have the formal Brenda Duke, who was talking to us about the hotel groups and the property. She brings the sort of tone into a more formal tone. So thank heavens for that. And right now I'm going to introduce Ken, who was it's his journey. The OneGrape journey is actually Ken's journey. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you, Geniene.
So tell me a little bit about your journey. Where did it start? I know we spoke last week, but your story really captivated me, which is why I invited you back this morning, because you're definitely the if you like, the epitome of a entrepreneur. You what we aspire to be.
Well, thanks, Geniene. First of all, I must just say one thing. This is the best station in the world. It's the only station that lets you drink wine so early in the morning.
No, it's 4 o'clock, remember?
Yes, I forgot it's
1
time.
o'clock.
Yes,
Yeah,
I forgot about that. Yes, absolutely. No, I think, like I mentioned last week, just briefly, is that our journey actually started in Mauritius. Look, I've been in the wine game for 15, 18 years, and I've always wanted to bring out my own brands. So we were actually on holiday, family holiday about 6-7 years ago. We landed up at a hotel at I think it was Long Beach Hotel at the time. And you know the normal story when when you walk into a hotel room, you book in and you check in, and they bring your luggage to the room, and you walk into your room and you see the brochure. And I said to my wife, I said, "Love, this is a guy I went to school with 20 years ago, and he was at school with me."
I think you're giving away your age here.
Okay, 12 years ago. 12 years ago plus VAT, I would say. But we went to, I said, this guy went to school with me. So I said, look, I have to try and get hold of this guy, because imagine getting your wines into Mauritius. That'll be the flagship. And it's a pity. I phoned the PA, his PA, and unfortunately he was in Mauritius. I mean, he was in France on holiday. But can you believe this? 2 years later, Janine, we went back to Mauritius, but at a different hotel from the same group. Same thing, walked into the hotel room, and guess what? Same name, but he actually moved into that hotel as GM 2 years later, and we were there a week after he moved in. So that's how it started. We met for catch up and had drinks together, and I said to him, listen, I'm in the wine business. He used to call me Kenny. Kenny, what are you doing for a living? I said, we make wine. He says the timing's right, because we're actually looking for an inclusive wine package. You know, Mauritius.
Absolutely, yeah. It's
a lot of money,
all-inclusive package.
100%.
Absolutely,
You drink as much as possible.
It's our local Mexico.
So that's how it started, Janine. That's how it started. And right time, you know, old story in life. People buy from people, not bottles.
And they clearly bought from you.
And that's a relationship. So I think that's how our journey actually started, was in Mauritius.
And tell me something, when you bring out a new, let's say you want to bring out something new and enter some competitions, and do you taste the wine or get a range of people to taste the wine?
Yeah, what we normally do is that when I do the different blends, and it's like making a cake, putting eggs and whatever, we make different blends. And before I bring out a brand, I'll get a panel to taste it. We've got winemakers, we've got viticulturists obviously helping, obviously with the making of the wines. But before we bring out something, I want to make sure I give it to a panel out there to give the go-ahead. You know, I'm just not going to bring it out because I like it. Everyone's got a different taste. You know, like we always joke with tastings, and everyone says to us, you know, with food pairing, wine pairing, you drink what you like. You know, I love Sauvignon Blanc. My wife loves red. So, you know, when I bring out something, if I'm on a red X, I love my red wines, but I'll go give it to a panel of red people who love red wine to try it, because that's their forte.
Now, I think one of the most interesting things about wine is wine can pair with pretty much anything. And we always used to know it as cheese and wine. But these days I see there's a cheese in a wine, and there's a chocolate in wine, and
Absolutely.
there's different ways to drink wine. And I used to always say, is there white with fish? And I really am not a fan of white wine, except maybe Sauvignon Blanc. So for me, it was always red wine and fish. And everybody's, well, how can you have, you know what, I'm the one who's eating this food, and I'm the one who's drinking the wine. So would you please just back away and let me enjoy my food?
Yeah, others find, Janine, people like, for example, if you look at our dry reds, our red wines. Dry reds, obviously, it's got Shiraz, 60% Shiraz based. So that'll be great for spicy foods, curries and oxtails, and then your Merlot is more of a lighter side. You know, it's easy drinking wine. So the Merlot will go more with your pizzas, your pastas, your casseroles, but on a lighter dish. And then the sweet rosé, which we're tasting now, that sweet rosé is very nice with Asian food, Chinese food, and you won't believe duck, because duck's normally quite rich. So yeah, so it depends on, you know, I mean, obviously Sauvignon Blanc and the whites you have with fish and your prawns and whatever. But I always say, drink what you like. Now I'll give you the preference. I'll tell you what should go with what, but still, I can tell everybody what you should have it with. But you always go back to what you.
Now you're in some of the chains as a house wine, aren't you?
Yeah, we're in the. Thank goodness. Yeah, we started with we're in about 465 restaurants national. But John Dory's gave us the opportunity about 2 years ago. So we're in the John Dory's group on a national. Obviously, we're on promotion at the moment, but we are national with John Dory's, and that actually helps us from a consumer perspective. People walk into a John Dory's around the country, and they'll say to you, "I had your one at Belito, I had yours in Shelley Beach, I had yours in," and that actually helps, because they've put us on the map from a national perspective.
During lockdown, did you find that a bit challenging? Because clearly, as a supplier a purveyor of fine foods and food,
Yes.
you must have found it challenging especially since Mauritius was closed down.
Yeah, like I said last week, is that obviously Mauritius it's a good account for us, being the inclusive wine in Mauritius to about 22 hotels. And the sad part was, like I said to you last week, February, we sent just under 22,000 bottles into Mauritius. And when I got there, we had lockdown 2 weeks later. So the container didn't arrive in Port Louis. Port Louis was closed. It was shipped across to Sri Lanka. Then went to India and went back to Port Louis. And still today, that wine's still sitting in Mauritius. So, yeah. So
it's either going to taste really good because it's had a few climate changes, or it's going to taste really bad. Well, so we're hoping for the first one.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm just hoping, I was talking to Mauritius last week, hopefully that obviously they've gone back to a strict lockdown now. There's 150 cases of COVID, so they gone back to. We're hoping to go 2 steps forward. Now we're going 3 back again. So we're looking at, just talking to the guys last week. We're looking at only about August, September, Mauritius coming back to full strength again, hopefully.
Well, we have a question from one of our listeners, and she says, I love the label of OneGrape. What inspired you to have that brand?
Yeah, well...
And she's from the UK, by the way.
From the
It's
UK,
a UK
fantastic.
number.
I love it. And by the way, in the UK, our wine will be in the UK in about 4 or 5 weeks. We've actually opened a branch in the UK.
That's awesome.
So yes, so you'll see that. So just more on the OneGrape range, and Annelize mentioned earlier, is that we were looking for a name. I mean, I've been in the game for a long time, and the old story in life: you walk into a bottle store, and I see people at bottle stores walking in, and they look at the wines, and if you're not going there to choose the wine that you walked in for, it's very hard to choose a wine, because to me all the wines look the same on shelf. So you can see
it's just the labels.
It's just the labels, and everyone's looking, and we haven't. Our wine, there's no family history on 1865. My grandfather had a wine. And it's through the family. So what we did was we looked at the Red Bull scenario. If you look at Red Bull 15, 18 years ago, who would have thought Red Bull would have been a brand name Red Bull? So we thought, wine is made of grapes, and we're looking for something funky. We're looking for something.
As long as it's not just made of one grape.
No, absolutely. There's 2 grapes.
Because that's the important thing.
So, Jenny, what we wanted to do was bring in a wine where it's an easy name to remember, especially if you're house wine or restaurants, and OneGrape. You can't really forget the name OneGrape. And we came with a colourful wine. And like I mentioned, if you look at the back of each of our bottles, there's a little quirky story. And I see people at restaurants looking at our wine. They take the bottle and they look at it and they read the story of each bottle.
Let's have a look.
I mean, you can read that one. I mean, that's just quite fun.
Let's see. It says, we would love to tell you about the aroma of citrus-infused cherry blossoms on the nose, the splash of passion fruit on your palate, and our 3 baby hedgehogs that frolic on the lawn. But life's too short, and you only have one, so just open the bottle and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
I think that's fabulous. That is just such a cool label.
It's just very quirky, and we want to have a wine, so when you walk in, you know it. We're on promotion. We're on a great promotion at the moment with Tops and Spa, and with a few of the groups, Liquor City groups, for example. But the nice part, you see it, you remember it. Everyone. We joked one day. A guy said they walked into my office and they had a few grapes in a bowl, and I said, "What are these grapes for?" Others joked. I said, "No, it's a OneGrape conference. All these grapes." So it's a fun one. It's a house
wine. What
wine.
do they say? It's there's a particular wine brand that always talks about a fun and drinking wine. They've got like all these words. Yeah. Your wine is very similar because yours is just a fun one. We don't need lots of words. We just need one drink, and you're sorted.
I mean, like I said, in Australia, I've got a mate living in Australia, and this is about a year ago, just before lockdown. He phoned me. He says, He said, you won't believe this. We got guests arriving in the UK. I mean, in Australasia, in Perth, and a friend of ours at the barbecue. The Barbie.
No, it's a Barbie, not a barbecue.
So they arrived at the Barbie, and she opened the OneGrape. It was a dry red, and I think it was a dry rosé. And she said, "Mom, you're going to love this wine." And he said, "This is my mate's wine." It was so nice seeing that someone actually flew 10,000 or whatever, 8,000 Ks overseas, taking your wine. And in this country, we're well known for obviously for a bra wine. I mean, it's a nice thing when you go to a kids' party, or when you go to your daughter's kids' party, and you see people at the local bar having your wine, and it's so nice, Jenny, knowing that they're choosing your wine as their preferred drinking wine.
Drinking wine.
Absolutely.
I know when I worked as a waitress in the UK, everyone used to say, because the wine bars that I worked for always had 1 or 2, and my daughter's a mixologist, so she owns her own restaurant and has a couple of bars that she does cocktails for. So I'd love to introduce her to your wine, actually, because they're in a market where there are probably 30 or 40 restaurants, and I know she'd love to put that wine, because she's big on South African wine. So, of course, when I went in, and they used to say, well, what sort of wine should I choose? I said, recommend South African wine. And of course, I didn't always know all the wines. I'm not what do they call them? A sommelier. So I just used to say, listen, anything that comes out of South Africa, that's wine, you're sorted. Yeah. Generally, on the whole, any South African wine, no matter cheap or expensive, we actually make a good bottle. So very fortunate to be able. And then they'd always say, are you from which part of Australia are you from? Well, actually, I'm from Johannesburg. And they'd say, well, Joburg's not in Australia. I was, yeah, but you, the one who said I was from Australia. So another one of our questions from another lady. I see her picture is up on the corner. She says, tell me more about the company OneGrape and why has it chosen Edenvale restaurants as its house wine for many Edenvale restaurants?
Well, look, like I said to you, we are national. We're in a lot of restaurants around the country, but I think the whole story in life, I live in the East Rand. So obviously...
So you're in East Ronta, are you?
Ronta,
You have
So
your East Ronta
yes,
passport.
Absolutely.
You have your
it's-
stamp.
We left at 6:30 to get you, but I must say one thing is that obviously we target the restaurants where you live in. So you folk, and we started in the East Rand, then we went to the West Rand, then we went to Cape Town P. So obviously like I mentioned, with John Doyce putting us on the map, many restaurants. We are now, I think we run 600-700 restaurants now. But the nice part is that we're that glass wine, house wine, which the old story in life is like when you fly on the airlines, it's chicken or beef. At a restaurant, when you order a glass wine, the wine comes from OneGrape, which is nice. So if you walk into a restaurant, you ask for a glass of wine, we are the preferred wine to give you.
Well, I must say we do enjoy our wines in South Africa, and I think one of the things about wine is it brings people together. Absolutely. I know we're not supposed to say that drinking does that, but I think anything in moderation is good. And certainly wine brings this country, no matter where we travel, we always say, let's have a glass of wine together. You've noticed that it's a common way of saying, let's have a drink. So a lot of people who drink brandy or whiskey never say, let's have a whiskey together.
100%.
They always say, shall we meet for a glass of wine? Irrelevant of what you're going to enjoy, the glass of wine is key.
100%. It's either coffee in the morning or in the afternoon. Let's meet for a glass of wine. So yes.
Are you
100%.
going to be bringing out a box wine, or are you only having bottles?
Bottles at the moment. We have had plenty of requests at a lot of restaurants, especially overseas, asking us for box wine. So I might look at a 3 litre. Look, it's not my. It's not on the cards right now, but we're definitely getting calls.
The only reason I ask is I'm part of a motorbike club, and we travel a lot, obviously, as bikers. And the guys always have their little flasks, the
Yes.
steel hip flasks.
Absolutely.
And that's got their brandewijn.
Yeah.
So they sorted on that. But of course, when it comes to traveling with a bottle, it's a bit more challenging because a bottle in your
100%.
backpack and you drop the backpack, it's a problem.
100%.
But if you've got a little box that you can put in your backpack, then we're sorted.
Look, we were looking at for the airlines. I used to supply wine to the airlines 2-3 years ago. Obviously, what's happened with COVID, we had a little plastic glass which had a cup and a glass, which I'm re-looking at. So that'll definitely help you, Jenny, because this is the cup and glass all in one, and it's plastic, and it'll fit lovely into your bag on a trip.
One of the nicest things about wine is when you're flying overseas and you're sitting with somebody next to you and the service comes around and they said, we've got these wines. This one is from South Africa. And you always smile, like this little secret smile. Like when I flew I think I was on Finnair, and I flew from London to Finland to meet my husband who was there on a conference. They came around with the wines and they had these little wine dinky bottles. And she said, I said, what wines have you got? And she said, well, we got a South African and we got an Italian. I was like, oh, please, we will not have the Italian. That is such a heavy red wine. It's almost like a killer. I said, no, I'll have the South African. Anybody else want to have a South African wine? I'm from South Africa, just in case anybody wants to know about the wine. I'm not an expert. I'm a drinker. So I can tell you I'm a wine drinker, not a drinker, but I certainly drink wine, and I can tell you that our wines are so easy to enjoy. And I noticed in the UK on the shelves, South African wines were definitely carried, the more expensive brands as well as the cheap brands. And we were not that expensive. We were probably in the £5 range. And let me tell you, at £5, we certainly competed with Prosecco, because over there I started drinking Prosecco because it was cheap.
And the exchange rate helps a big time, mate. Exchange rate helps a big time. I mean, I was supplying wine 3-4 years ago for £3, £2-3. I'm talking a couple of years ago. And 100% correct. The well-known brands are there. But getting into the restaurant trade, I tried the UK, and we were supplying the Savoy Hotel, a few hotels. Like Annelize mentioned earlier, is that the leopards tell that those ranges get into the top hotels because they're so South African. Seeing a leopard, and it's, what more? It's the Big Five and one of the Big Five. So those kind of wines. But the OneGrape, we are targeting the restaurant trade in the UK. So if you could help me with that, I can give you a bit of commission, Janine.
Do you give me permission to go and buy it?
Absolutely.
I just love having permission to sell wine, I must admit. Even to taste wine, I think that's pretty cool. We're coming up to the news shortly, so we have time for just one more thought. You had a sign on the back of your T-shirt. What was it?
Yeah, would you like? Can I show it?
You can absolutely come and show everyone.
OneGrape.
You got to stand up.
Isn't laugh.
Isn't laugh grape? Isn't that just such, and do we sell these T-shirts with the wine? In other words, if I buy a case of wine, do I get a free T-shirt?
I'll organise that for you. Jim.
No,
Definitely.
because I think everybody should be walking around with that. I think it's one of the great things to have.
We'll definitely add that to our e-commerce store.
Yeah.
You should, because I think having a range of T-shirts, that if you buy a case or two of wine, you get a free T-shirt included, even if it's a round neck. As a girl, I like these headbands. So if I have a OneGrape headband, I'd be just delighted.
That I would organise. And these please organise that for us, please.
It is such an. It's got a steel. What do you call it? Not a steel. A wire.
Bit of a frame.
It's got a wire inside, and it's got the covering on it. And I would gladly look like a grape.
So is this a deal? If we make one for you, you will wear one for us. Huh?
Absolutely.
If you look at our ad on YouTube on the OneGrape and the leopard's tail, the OneGrape says it's one of us.
It's absolutely
That's
one of us.
that's the punchline. It's one of us. So I love to make you a lovely.
I think that would work just so well, and you could certainly package it with when you bring out the doorsvein. And
Ja.
those of you who are Afrikaans, that
Wyn vir
is
die
a
pyn.
box wine.
Hulle sê dis wyn vir die pyn.
Wyn vir die pyn.
Pyn.
And if I watch how many other girls drink on the motorbike club, they are so interesting to watch because they can just clap a few boxes of wine with no problem at all. And they very seldom bring bottles. And that's why when I was talking to you earlier, and I thought, as a motorbike club, the guys have all got their flasks, but the girls struggle to carry the bottles.
Yeah.
But if we could carry, not we, but them,
Yeah.
if they could carry a box, I'm sure I could. Because I already, when I take my dips and I take my bruschetta, I know that if I take a box, it's clapped within a few minutes. Gone history. And we're going to go to some music now and then the news. And straight after the news, we're going to be talking to Bernard, our Betty Bangles, our very own entertainment. Because, I mean, you can't have wine without entertainment. And Ken, it's been awesome. And thank you so
very
much
much,
for the
Annie.
wine. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to talking to you a bit more a bit later.
Cheers to you. Thank you, thank you for having us on the show.
It's only a pleasure.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks, Sheldon. And Paul, OneGrape Wine's juvenile plate. It's over 1900. We're on the turf for the first on Eland Gold.